I'd like to welcome everyone to today's edition of the Software Spotlight. And today, joining us from Australia, we have Chandika Jayasundara from Creately. He's the co founder of the company. And welcome to the podcast.
Pleasure to be here, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And I was hoping you could give our listeners an idea of how Creately came to be and what the original origin story of the product was.
So Creately started itself as as a visual platform that we looked at uh, uh, a while back, all the way back in 2008 when we were first starting. Uh, and I was, involved in a research program at the University of Melbourne, and my co-founders were there with me as well. And we figured out that there's no real uh, collaborative way to draw things on the internet, right? One. Number two, when you work on anything that is sufficiently complex, it's a visual design that comes out, a diagram, a schematic, and so on. And a lot of information is actually captured in this visual form. However, the consumption of this visual form is either in a PowerPoint or in a Word document, where it is reduced into a flat, a JPEG image, a screenshot of that rich information that you put in. And when you put in that information as well, it's just a just pictures. None of the data
Right, so
or the
really a
insights that you
static.
have in each of those blocks that you put on the screen is captured, right? So what we really thought was, what if we just combine these two things, right? And allow you to sort of explore, document, or think around the visual problem in that visual space, the data and the knowledge that goes around it into this core form of a that looks like a diagram, but behind it there are so many layers, and we've thought about creatively from the beginning about how can people create diagrams that actually have the data and the rest of the information around it. And so when we this was actually the problem that we started with. And at that point when we started, it was Creately was a new thing that allowed people to create diagrams on the browser, which in itself was a huge deal because Visio was the incumbent at the time, and you had desktop software for this, and you didn't, you had one other, alternative that was sufficiently decent on the internet, and we were very early in that space, and people were wowed by it, but they were not ready for the complexity of bringing in additional information or the kind of thinking that it required for people to switch into that uh, viewpoint of usage. And but over time, as visual tools have gotten more mainstream adoption, now we see a significant number of people, a larger segment of the market, appreciating the fact that you can actually combine all these things and have a central place as a point of reference, as the central canvas of collaboration, or the central place that you run the project from, be a visual one rather than a document oriented one or text oriented one.
So it sounds like the vision for the product was firmly rooted from the beginning, but the
Yeah,
collaborative aspect of the product kind of grew over time.
yeah, yes. As in, the collaborative aspect was all was there from day one, but we didn't have all the bells and whistles at that early stage. Uh, but it was a natural add-on, and I think that's not really anything magical for somebody to think about. should we add collaboration to this form of content, be it a document or slides or a spreadsheet or a canvas, because it's fairly obvious for anybody.
Sure.
Uh,
No,
uh,
especially for teams working
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
across industries. Now, can you tell me about the early days when you were first starting to get the company off the ground? What were some of the initial uh, challenges that you needed to overcome, and how have those changed over time?
In the initial days, it was more about educating the customer that, okay, this platform is robust, reliable, and uh, being able to go into market, finding the right kind of channels, because it was early days of SaaS. And that challenge, we came to it by doing a lot of marketing, a lot of education, a lot of content marketing. That basically we built the customer acquisition channels mostly on SEO generated content, usual ads, and so on, which drove us build our pipeline into the product. Over time, now as in post COVID, we are in a completely different market because our segment became mainstream. At the start of COVID, we realized we were in a position where we had maybe four competitors. We were always in that top five tools in this segment
Sure,
continuously, and in the 6 months into COVID, we realized, okay, this has become mainstream, and everyone's gonna build one, right? Everyone's gonna start getting into this space because this is a core tool now, just like
sure,
docs, sheets, and so on. And yeah, we called it early on, and at that time we were very much focused on the collaboration and the diagramming aspect of our platform, uh, and we had given the data and the additional information aspect of the product a little we put it on a slightly lower priority at that time,
sure,
leading up to COVID. But after we added on all the collaborative stuff, we realized, okay, everybody's going to get in here. We will need to find a better niche going forward. So we spent a lot of time in the last few years building these additional capabilities into the platform that allows us to specialize in helping the user that wants to capture the process or the document or the design, as well as additional information, and have a rich central repository of visual workspace. And that's where we've been focusing on. Um, yeah,
very,
yeah.
yeah.
So
And
now,
I
I
have
mean,
to say
we've
that
called it right as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I have to say it, it spans a bunch of different industries and markets and use cases. One thing that I came across that I thought was really interesting in the early days, as you were launching the product, I know you had more of a pay what you want type model. I think you called it. Can you touch on that? What was the idea behind that, and
Yeah.
how did it help launch the company? I know there's a lot of people out there either just getting started in the SaaS space, or maybe getting solutions up and running. And how did that impact you?
When we first started, there was one other competitor in the same space, and I think they were charging. Um, I think I can't exactly remember what they were charging, and then there was desktop software, annual purchases, and that kind of thing. And we internally had a debate of like what should we charge. That was where it initially rose from, and we thought we should charge a certain amount, around $5 a user, which I thought was okay. But you also had uh, G Suite at the time, now Google Workspace, charging $5 a user per month for an entire suite of things. So as in the value of what something costs was very different for different perspectives. And we are also going to launch the our paid. We were coming out of beta and turning on our first subscriptions. We also wanted to do something interesting and different in the same go as well, to figure out, one, we wanted to figure out pricing.
Sure.
Two, we wanted to also make some noise in trying to do that. And we thought, okay, we can only do this one time.
Right.
Let's see what the market wants or what the market's willing to pay. And it was a very interesting experiment, to say the least, because we thought everybody would pay the minimum, which is $1.
Right.
But there were people who paid 4, 5, 10, 20, and one guy even paid 100.
So what were your big takeaways from that experiment? Basically,
and it averaged out around the price that we thought it would.
Okay.
It was slightly above, $6 was the average. And the cool thing was, even though we thought it'll bottom out, we also primed the page with explaining, okay, you can play any amount you want, but this is what similar software costs. And we put
Right.
other products and their prices at the bottom of that page. And I think that really drove that influence on how people would pick a price there. And because we were the first SaaS company to ever do some first software. The previous pay what you want experiment was, I think, Radiohead doing an album for $1 or something in the
Sure.
UK. And we were like the first software company to do that. And we made a little bit of noise and news because of that, and people found it very interesting and generated a lot of positive PR, and that helped. That
Neat.
helped
And
more than the
it got the
pricing
momentum
experiment,
going and the
actually.
subscriber base and all of that.
Yeah.
Very nice. So I was wondering, obviously the landscape has changed quite a bit since the company was founded. Can you give us an idea of, in your niche within the market space, what do you see as the trends over the next several years? What do you see as big trends right now that are starting to emerge?
So Creatly is in the visual collaboration space, right? So overall, post-COVID and how teams work across the world distributed, collaboration, I think, is a continuing mainstream trend that everyone adopts and has to use on a day-to-day basis. There's no change in the amount of the only a it's only a growing market, the visual collaboration space.
Sure.
That space has to grow, continues to grow, and more people realize the benefits of actually having a visual tool to work around core problems that they have on a day-to-day basis, to put information in a central place. So I think that's becoming central. And we see a lot more competitors in this space as well. And there are, platforms that have that are not really from this space adopting these capabilities. Like now Monday's launching one. ClickUp has a collaboration whiteboard. These are like very basic tools, but are still capable and covers the bottom it's the 80-20 rule, right? So you
Right.
cover the 20% that what people see as a product in this space, and that makes it challenging for players like us who are actually focused on this space, and we have to differentiate. And thankfully we have defined ourselves slightly differently, and the capabilities that you require to even do the basic things like diagramming properly is not present in a whiteboarding tool. So that's the current mainstream point of differentiation. And the additional differentiation comes from people wanting to do a process map of organization in a detailed manner, and you want to capture the the documents and everything else in the same context. So I see overall this specific market the specialized players will have to start differentiating and adding more functionality.
Okay.
Whereas, and the challenge is going to be keeping your, initial UX simple enough for general use adoption while still providing these additional capabilities. And that's a challenge to be had by everybody who's in this space, as the tooling itself becomes very, very generic. And then the other meta trend, I would say, is AI coming into
Sure.
play. So everybody is adopting some kind of AI into their platforms, generative AI, to generate, diagrams or flowcharts at this time. And what we've seen, our competitors have already announced what they're doing, and we are announcing in a couple of weeks what we're doing. Some of them have gone live with it. It's fairly rudimentary. It's what you get with ChatGPT, a
Right.
bunch of bullet points arranged as a bunch of sticky notes. We have a very different view of how we might want to do that. And we are doing a launch with Microsoft Teams in a few weeks on with AI, and that's going to be a very exciting announcement. And
Sure.
I think bringing AI and using it as a co-pilot or a assistive capability to maybe like another member in your team as you work through uh, various problems on a visual canvas is going to be very interesting, and it's going to be quite mainstream very, very fast. I think those are the
And,
two meta trends in this
and
space.
I would agree. I think one of the most exciting things about AI is the capability to draw insight from large data sets that just may not be possible, through traditional methods. So really exciting times that we're living through, and seeing different capabilities
Absolutely.
become possible. Really
As in,
amazing.
if you take the so on for Creately, there's a couple of main scenarios that we focus on. Helping people
Sure.
brainstorm, defining processes, or running a project and so on. So if you take brainstorming, it as in having AI uh, in your in your team, generative AI in your team to help you brainstorm is like a huge superpower because it opens up new angles of thinking. Some of them are hallucinations, I know, but it still allows you to broaden your thinking without really doing much, and forces teams to open up in ways that they didn't anticipate, or avoids groupthink. So many benefits that applied in the right form, it can be very, very powerful. Yeah.
So let me ask you, as far as unique features of Creately, that obviously it's a very, very well seasoned product. Some of the unique features that really help it stand out from some of the other products in the market space today, if you were to highlight a few features that you think really come top of mind, what would you say?
So one, it's a easy space to get started. It's a visual collaboration platform, and it can do diagramming as a first-rate diagramming platform. So we have native support for 70 types of diagrams, and each of these diagram types have their conventions and certain uh, connectors, certain behaviors that we've made it very, very easy to draw and create. That's number one. Number two is after you create, collaboration is simple, and so on. But this is fairly stock standard, except for the diagramming part across our competitors. Where we stand out is that once you create a diagram or a visual in Creately, you can combine this with a data base that's built into Creately, and you can take the same thing and have a multimodal view of this information. So say you create a process flow and you
Sure.
have one view of this, and you're going to use some of these processes in another flow or on another context to explain how this works, how this is applied, and you can basically copy and paste that into another context. And when you update the process flow in another workspace, it'll update the ones in the original workspace as well, because it's linked to the same thing. So this, multimodal view of the same data, that's which we just drew anyway, right?
So some real
Is very
intelligence built into
exactly.
the interactivity.
Yeah. So it brings, it allows people to work, continue working on things without having to think about going and do I have to update it multiple places. uh,
Mhm.
if different people collaborate on different aspects of it, it'll still all come together into the central view. And one thing is you creating this information, the other thing is you might be importing this data or syncing this data from another third party source, like maybe GitHub, right?
Sure.
So or Jira or HR system, and we can still visualize that it'll still sync to the same original data source, and it'll have this multimodal view where you can put the same information in different contexts and have a have use it for any kind of purpose,
And
really.
it's very interesting because, we're seeing this across other software as a service platforms and other industries. There's this giant consolidation of tools. And it really seems that Creately is kind of at the forefront of that, where it's bringing together different tool sets into a unified view for teams to be able to focus on getting their job done.
Yeah, you summed it up perfectly, because that's really, as in, what we want Creative to be, and then it's designed to be, is a place to put stuff in. And idea is you can bring your stuff, bring your ideas, bring your data, bring your team, and
Mhm.
you're able to play with this stuff. You can move it around, you can group it, you can put it in a box, you can put it in a swim lane, a Kanban board, a timeline, any structure you want, the way you want, and it'll still be the same data and same
Yeah, and
information that is bound to the
it
same
just
thing.
seems super flexible. I mean, obviously, a lot of a lot of clients are using, whether it's Microsoft Teams or Slack or Confluence or Jira, whatever, some of those tools that they're using on the back end. But it sounds like all of those tools are can be integrated and used within Creately.
Yes. So we have a very deep integration with Microsoft Teams. Slack, we have a fairly standard integration, but we're working on that as well. And
Sure.
we have data integrations open on Create, and we um, are able to build out integrations if if a specific customer requires something very specific from a third party platform. And we are continuously expanding to where you can bring data from. For example, you can bring in data from Google Sheets or docs and so on and so forth into the canvas, and it'll uh, always represent the latest information.
Sure. So, obviously the SMB market means different things to different people. A lot of our visitors are in that, 50 to 500 range sized companies, and then obviously larger enterprise clients over that amount. Can you talk to some of the features or capabilities or security protocols built into the platform for enterprise clients, and a little bit about that with Creately?
The questions is about SMBs or enterprise?
For enterprise
Okay,
clients.
okay.
Yeah,
So, so, um, so thing number one when it comes to enterprise is information security and management, and we just earlier this year achieved our SOC 2 Type 2 certification and ISO 27001 certification. So we are fairly compliant, fairly compliant, fully compliant, and very security focused internally as a company. Um, and we have quite advanced management controls built in so that you can manage the data that you have, manage how people share, how people access. So these control aspect of it is really covered for an application that is very easy to adopt and use
sure.
inside an organization. I think those are the two main things, right? And can this app or product be adopted easily enough across the organization? Number two is it secure, and does it tick all the boxes that we
Right.
want into? So it's integrated with uh, your SCIM or Azure AD and so on and so forth. So it's really streamlined for enterprise use. And then the third thing is, are more and more departments going to find interesting use cases out of the platform? And we have thousands of custom designed templates that people can use on Creately, and we see organizations able to use the product across all departments in all kinds of different use cases. And we'll be adding AI into the platform as well, and that'll help people really understand how to apply visuals in different contexts. That's really part of the larger problem. Having a tool, okay, so we give Creately to somebody who does not understand visual frameworks, how to apply these things. They will still just draw a basic flowchart or a bunch of stickies they'll replicate what they'll do on a whiteboard,
Sure.
because that's the visual structure that they know. But what we're really getting into is helping people introduce people to this power of various visual structures and various models of thinking. So for example, a SWOT diagram, a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat diagram, a
You're
Kanban
taking
board
me
is another
back to
way.
my marketing days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the business model canvas, it's a beautiful way of outlining what a business looks like from a very high level view. And all these different ways of looking at the same information uh, is something that we are very passionate about, and we think it's a major unlock. And making that mainstream for organizations and people uh, who don't know these frameworks, or who you pay a consultant $1,000 a day to come and teach you, is really actually that's cheap, more, but
Right.
is what we are trying to get people to do inside organizations. So that's where we come in with templates and all these use cases on a
So you're
very
really
easy
making it
platform.
possible for someone to work the way that they are used to working, but then to take advantage of some of these additional
Exactly,
capabilities as they grow into the product.
exactly, exactly. Yeah.
So you kind of touched on the marketing and sales piece there. Are there other functionalities built into the solution for marketing and sales teams?
Uh, yeah, as in, so it's just so running marketing projects, particularly on Creator, is very very easy, because one, you have the campaign planning and everything in maybe a bunch of stickies and a timeline, and then on top of that, you'd have assign the responsibilities and roles for different people, and you're usually coordinating across multiple teams. So on Creately, compared to any other way of running a project, you could uh, have multiple Kanban boards on the same view, so that you have a single view of where your people are, where your teams are at this time, getting this project done. As we are very used to running projects like this now, because it helps you visually understand very quickly where things are at, and everything's in the same place, rather than switching between multiple tabs. So that's another problem that we like to talk about, because you have so many tabs, right? How do you connect the dots between these things? And what we talk about is bringing all these tabs into a single canvas, so you can actually see the lines between them,
Sure.
and draw a line if you really want to. Yeah.
Now, kind of shifting gears a little bit, it seems like a natural for IT and operations teams and the like. Um, how do you see teams in IT using Creately to either do things that they couldn't do before, or do what they've been doing? Like whether it's just network diagrams or infrastructure mapping or whatever they may be doing now with other tools. How do you see them doing it in Creately?
So for IT teams, particularly operationally, it's either processes, or standard process, standardization of processes, or drawing network diagrams or your cloud infrastructure diagrams and so on, and centralizing this in a place where you can add additional layers of information or have discussions, maybe have a triage. All that is possible in Creately, because we have workspace statuses. You can have different versions of the same thing that you can mark it as, this is a draft, this is the plan that we're going live with, this is what we've had last year, and so on. You can compare between those. You can have discussion threads. So all these things enable IT teams to really optimally use it inside their operations. And things that we're excited about in this space include the ability to bring in lots of these, so you bring in a network schema or set of data from network, and that would sometimes have hundreds of nodes and so on. So we're just shipping out automatic layouting and automated drawing for Creately, which will help people really quite a bit in visualizing that, maybe in different ways even. And also, because on Creately you have this central concept of, so you have this this server or this router that's in your structure, and you're going to draw another diagram with it from different contexts. So you have maybe a security perspective, you have a infrastructure perspective, and so on. So on the security perspective, you have the same stuff, which is connected to the same data. Therefore, any changes you make there will be available on the other views where another team might be looking at it. Is pretty powerful, honestly speaking, and that allows real collaboration to happen on a single source of truth. Really, yeah.
And I would have to imagine at the outset of the whole transition of things, obviously education has to have become a new market that wasn't on the horizon in the early days, that is now seeing a lot of benefit through a solution like Creately. Do you have some
So on the
examples of
contrary,
how?
actually,
Yeah,
education and using Creately for diagrams and charts in even in K-12 and universities has been one of the early adopters of our platform.
interesting.
And
Okay.
so lots of templates and lots of content were created specifically for that by third-party users on Creately. And so education is still a major part of a major segment that we cater to. And because Creately at its heart has a really powerful diagramming engine, and students mostly find it very, very easy to use Creately for these purposes, and we usually have whatever template that they're looking for as well already drawn out. And
Sure.
we continue to be a very popular choice for student schools and universities across the board, for almost all the disciplines.
Very interesting. And, it seems like there's quite a vibrant community of Creately users. So that is, it's exciting and really neat to see that, that people have jumped in to contribute, through the platform. And I can hear
Yeah,
people wondering if we can show some visuals of what
yeah,
Creately actually looks like. And down
sure.
the bottom of the screen is the little arrow with the share button. I didn't know if you had a
Let me see.
tab
Yeah,
that you might be
let me.
able to share with us to give us a high
Yeah,
level
sure. Let
demo
me.
of Creately. What do they say? A picture is worth a thousand words, and
Yeah, 1,000 words.
and
Yeah. So this is Greatly. It's very clean. There's nothing on the screen actually, so I can double click anywhere and it'll give you a sticky and you can type in it. And once it's selected, it shows the. So it's really at this point you don't see anything. Now when you click something, you'll see the context menus, and it's very, very contextual kind of UI that you have. And Create is infinite canvas. So You can have all kinds of things on drawn on Creately. So be it a bunch of sorry, let me just a little bit more.
Sure.
A bunch of sticky notes, and this is a sitemap. Somebody's planning, and we generally try to make it look a little nice when you're by default drawing. That's very important. Do mind maps, process flows, org charts, infrastructure diagrams, and so on. So even Gantt charts or sequence diagrams, all kinds of things. And if you go in here, there are thousands of shapes in different libraries, and there are tons of templates that you can go through.
So you really, as a project manager, you really have a starting point for almost any direction.
Any direction. As in, so the main use cases are brainstorming, organizing projects, planning, running meetings, and diagramming flowcharts. Different segments use Creately for different purposes, and we try to cater for all the areas that we focus on. And other neat things on Creately is really around. Things around Creately are things like like this. So this is a note, and it has a attached note inside it.
Sure.
So if I go in there, so that's a full-on doc with additional information that you want to have with files. And
so on the front end, you're seeing the visual representation, but on the back end, you can click into it and see more detail and
and you can. So this works a lot like a full-on document, almost like a Notion sort of approach in here. And each element on your canvas can have a document attached to it, a note attached to it, and you can have various kinds of data fields, file attachments, and so on at each level. And you can take the same information and put it in a different context, and they'll point to the same thing, which is pretty cool. And the platform understands, has intelligent structures. Now, for example, there's a timeline, and if I move this, the dates change. The due dates change if I go in here and say change the due dates from the data. It jumps as well, so it's fully bound, and it's pretty cool.
Tons of intelligence built into it.
Yeah, really. So it's a visual tool. It looks like a visual canvas that allows you to move things around. Now, if I take this thing here, let me just color it nicely so that it's obvious. I can take it out. It becomes a sticky note, which was its original form. If I put it in here, it becomes a Gantt chart bar. So it understands context. It just works. As in, you don't have to think about it, and it'll just help you visually work.
So let me ask, for software development, I could see this as a very, very useful tool, from concept to launch to bug tracking to the whole 9 yards of software development for any company. Is there a community behind software development using the solution in that way?
Yeah, we have lots of customers that use it for going from product management to actually using it for development overall as well. And different teams use different kinds of tools. It might be on a more formal sort of structure in maybe large organizations, like using UML, BPM and flows, and things like that. Or it might be quite informal with planning stories with your sticky notes, then getting into a collaborative session to estimate them, and then run your weekly sprints on a Kanban board. So and the project managers can take that information from the Kanban board, plot it on a timeline for a larger high level reporting, and all these things will always be updated without people having to update multiple reports in multiple places, because that's how the product's been built. And people I generally love the fact that it's very simple to interact, and we take care of the rest behind the scenes in the platform. Yeah.
Very nice. And I can see, obviously, saying project management is a very broad term because there's project management
Yeah.
across so many different disciplines. Do you find for companies that may have manufacturing facilities or production environments that uh, a solution like Creately fits into those types of organizations?
Yeah, yeah. As in, I know I've seen we do have some customers in manufacturing or process oriented organizations, and these are generally departments that are very oriented towards solving the problem in a certain way. Uh, and the adoption on Creately generally happens on a when a department wants to solve a certain problem visually.
Sure.
That usually ends up being initially uh, the three key personas that come to Creately from IT perspective is either product manager or a project manager that wants to centralize their requirements and the running of the product into a single place so that there's a surface for the developers and the designers and the requirements to get together. So that's a visual canvas. That's the kind of canvas that you see here. Then it might be an HR department usually that comes in with they want to organize their lay out the organization chart, uh, have different perspectives on it, and also bring the processes in there. And these departments act as the linchpin to go into the rest of the organization so that it gets exposed to the rest of the organization. Or it's a process or ops team that want to standardize their process and define what's happening then. And in manufacturing, that's generally those are the teams that are picking Creately up for defining their processes and bringing also even things like I want to draw this process. I want to draw the process. This is the higher level of. Let me just find one. Um, this is the high level process of how this works, right? And in here you put all the manuals and all the information, the PDF files that you require in context. So when somebody looks at this, right, they go through, okay, so this is a process. If I want to find more information, it's just right there, and the attachments are there. So it's very centralized. That you don't have to go through multiple places to go from the high level view to the very detailed view. It's in a single place, and lots of customers appreciate that fact, and that's why they choose Creately.
Yeah, so it's a very intuitive interface. So a lot of times the product may actually land in an organization in one department or for one specific application. But what I'm hearing is as different individuals or departments within a company start using the solution, it may actually spread throughout the company and be used in completely different ways in different parts of the organization.
Yes, absolutely. That's the opportunity for us as well, and that's what we want to happen a lot more. And we're trying to tune the product to help more and more departments discover Creately as a extension of what they initially started to use for. And you certainly can, because the use cases cover lots of different functions in an organization, from software to healthcare, HR, marketing and sales. Those are core focus areas. But these use cases, every department does. Every department does brainstorming. Every department runs projects and does strategic planning. So it's very applicable to lots of different scenarios, as well as really uh, effective in most departments as well. Um, and the other thing is, one other problem when you're spreading it across organizations is the problem of cost and additional seats. And what we've noticed is lots of organizations have a few people who can edit. The others are like secondary licensees who don't have
Sure.
editabilities because you're not paying for the licenses. And so how lots of SaaS companies get around it uh, is that it allows anybody who's coming in to edit, and they add you silently to the bill end of the month, and you
Sure.
have this huge cost creep suddenly, and you can lock it down, and then you make users unhappy. So it's a tough choice, and we realized that this was actually a big problem in trying to drive adoption, and we introduced this really unbelievable plan that we're doing,
That
which
was
is
my question. Like, what are the different licensing models if, for a company
yeah.
that wants to get started with Create?
Yeah, so you have a monthly plan of generally it costs $5 per user per month on Creately when you pay annually, or so that's one plan. That's our baseline plan for every team. But we have this, and then you have Enterprise, which allows you to use all the capabilities of the platform, and that's also fairly customized for the requirement. But in the middle, you have
Sure.
this new plan called that we're doing called the Unlimited Business Plan, which allows
Okay.
an unlimited number of users to use Creately inside the organization, and it's $1,000 a year, and that's really a steal for any
Wow.
company that's 50 to 500. You'd be paying 10 times or 20 times more for a competing solution. You can use all the capabilities, and the only things that are limited on that is the number of admins are limited. So if you have a very heavy-handed IT department, you might need to move into another plan. But generally, um, you're fairly good in trying to get lots of people to use the platform and benefit from it at this price point. And we want to take that question, that uh, problem out of the equation, because we think the unlock here is really the ability for cross-departmental collaboration on a visual surface will bring so many benefits to organizations. You'll be, uh, you'll be wowed, and we want to cross that. I think that's the place that we have to cross as organization and as a segment in this market, and we want to sort of uh, grease the wheels, so to say,
Well,
by trying to do that.
it's a very, fair licensing model, and obviously helps to, you know, provide a solution that solves a lot of problems, and different groups within the organization can take advantage of it. So that's neat. Let me ask you, and we'll leave a link in the show notes for anyone that wants to get up and running with Creately.
Yeah.
But I guess the other question is, sitting where you're sitting, and having seen so many users get up and running with this type of a solution, what are some of the common mistakes that you see users making as they're getting up and running? Like,
So what usually happens is, because specifically for Creately, we've hidden a lot of capability in the platform to make it very, very simple. So one challenge that we have is actually educating these users to help them understand, okay, there are different ways of looking at this. You can actually do a lot more than what you're seeing in the first glance. You came here to draw a flowchart, you just drew the flowchart. You could have done that in any other platform as well. But what more can you do, and how can you sort of go from this initial flowchart to something that is useful for the rest of your team, which you'll keep coming back to? And that's really the change that we want to see in people, and that's the educational process.
so really
Now,
helping users take full control of the
full advantage of the
functionality.
platform is
Sure.
where I think is a challenge for lots of companies anyway. But we are also facing the same. That's one of the one of the core objectives that we have, to help people understand this power of different visual models. And that's where we are going to put in AI to help people go from one view to multiple views using AI, because then we don't have to teach them one by one. Somebody is going to get that, AI is going to get that done for them, which I think will help us solve this problem. Very
Neat.
excited for that to come down
Neat.
the
No,
pipe
it
in the
sounds
next
like
couple
it's
of
going to be
weeks.
an exciting announcement.
Yeah.
And what are some tips that you have at a high level for creating like engaging and informative visuals using Creately? What are some tips that you might offer
So
to users?
first thing, if you want, whatever you're starting, you can search for a template. We have thousands and thousands of really nice pre-drawn templates that you can start with, and these work great. And after you start with a template, it's keep drawing. And one other thing is Creately is also very keyboard friendly. I would go on to say, as in, if you're creating something engaging, first thing, get the structure done, and then get a template. Then you understand what the structure is, and then it's a matter of filling it out. And we'll take care of the layout in the structure. I can just press tab and type and keep tabbing and typing and uh, shift enter, shift enter. It's really really fast and easy to use. And it's almost
Tons of
comparable to,
shortcuts and the like, I can
yeah,
say.
tons of shortcuts, tons of well thought out user experience, tidbits that'll make it feel very natural to use the interface. And you know and things like changing colors, things that work nicely. These are subtle things that we have put in a lot of thought into, um, and they help people come up with something that looks above and beyond nice. Now I can select all these things and change the uh, theme, and your entire diagram looks different. Lots of little things that in there that helps you stop thinking about the visual aspect of it. Just think about the function, and we'll take care of the visual. And that's the general way I would advise people to think about it.
Okay, great. And then as far as, obviously there's a lot of different clients that are using the solution and using it in all kinds of different ways. Is there something that comes top of mind in terms of a particular client or use case that you thought was like super creative and when you looked at it, you said, wow, can't believe they're using the product in that way. We never envisioned that.
Yeah. So as in, we've had a lot of customers, and this is a surprising use case that we didn't think organization charts were like a huge segment for us, and we thought people came in to draw the org chart mostly. But what we saw was that people, some of these organizations have their normal HR systems that have a lot of data and a lot of information. They're inflexible, and they don't allow them to make changes or communicate the information that they want in a nice way for the audience that they want to cater to. So they end up using spreadsheets. And what lots of these departments are doing is using Creately's HR diagrams as a basic HRIS. So you put in the people, and then you go in and put all the additional information like their name or the data field and so on, and that's the place that they keep it, and that's the reference point. And we found it particularly interesting because we didn't design it for that. We don't think you should be keeping. We don't think you would be keeping HR information on a diagram, but
Right.
for these people, these teams, it makes more sense because why? It's editable easily. Two, they can have a discussion around it, because what happens when you bring that information onto a canvas and you have everybody's mouse pointer going around, you can have that same thing in a meeting, and you can
Sure.
collaboratively edit anybody's information. Maybe you're doing a performance evaluation, maybe you're doing a reorg. It opens up a whole different bunch of possibilities that you couldn't have in another form. And at the end of it, you have an always up to date reference point that you're sharing to other parties. And that is a huge hack for teams that are stuck in, sort of structured system of record systems like HR or
Sure. I
ERPs
mean,
and so on.
it's really the magic behind the
Yeah,
solution, if you
yeah,
look at it that
yeah.
way.
So
Neat.
yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And then one last question. I don't know if you can share this or not, but are there any new features? Obviously, you touched on AI, but any other new features that are on the horizon that the team is excited about bringing to market?
Yeah. Yeah. So we're really going deep into these capabilities of allowing people to collaborate visually around data. And one key thing that we are very excited to ship is the ability for you to basically go from so this is your so I didn't show this panel. You have your
Sure.
folders, you have your tasks that you might be assigned to, you have your databases and your notifications and the history and so on. So you can go in and uh, bring in data from different sources like GitHub and so on. And what we allow you to do, we will allow you to do is say query a third-party data source like GitHub or your HR system, and have that query added to any kind of structure, maybe this timeline or maybe this Kanban board, uh, and or maybe it's mind map. And when that initial data set changes, we will update it here. So it sounds like it's you're syncing data from end to end, which
Right.
is what data integration platforms do. But on Creately, what we're doing is we are syncing a query, specific query. So a subset of a view of your data into another view, and that stays updated all the time. And inside Creately, you can add additional information on top of it. You can have additional, context to it. You can color it differently, paint it differently. We don't restrict you, and that unlocks a lot of different use cases for teams to use Creately as an always up-to-date reference source that is always the place to go to. You Creately becomes the interface for you to work on everything else, and that's we are very, very excited to ship.
And then one other question I know I get all the time. Can you talk to us a little bit about support for the solution?
Yeah. So we have in-app chat support for all of our customers, and we have lots of documentation, everything else. So in-app chat support, email support, chat support is available every weekday and weekends, 24/7, and email support as well. And we have
Oh, that's
a globally
fantastic.
distributed support team uh, able to help people at any given time.
Great. Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate your spending the time with us on the Software Spotlight podcast today. Are there other details that we maybe didn't cover, or anything else you wanted to add in to
Oh,
make sure our listeners are aware of?
uh, I think we covered pretty much everything. The other thing is, I know I think you can try Creately. It's very simple to use. And another thing that you might want to check out is maybe Microsoft Teams integration, which is really head over heels above every other integration in that ecosystem in terms of what it can do. And we are making some very uh, big announcements in a couple of weeks around Microsoft Teams and AI as well.
Neat, neat. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out to join us today. From Australia, we've had Chandika, uh, co-founder and CEO of Creately. And coming up on our next software spotlight, we have Zaifai Zhang from Active Campaign, the email marketing automation and CRM tool platform that provides incredible customer experience for both you and your customers. So thank you for joining us today, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.